Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Tsulong, 10-man heroic in the Terrace of the Endless Springs.
Hello!
Yes, this fight has gone absolutely apeshit on the changes. Like, seriously, there are so many changes that, like, well, let me explain it. There's ads in the night phase, and it's like you click on in the day. Jeez, I can't keep count.
So many changes.
Well done, Blizz. Fuck.
Now, if you haven't seen the normal mode mechanics for this fight, then please do click up on the annotations on your screen now. That'll take you to our normal mode guide, because we're not going to talk about all the normal mode mechanics in detail. So go check that out, just refresh yourselves with that. And for this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 3 healers, and the rest DPS. And it doesn't really matter what DPS you bring, but if you can bring hybrid DPS that can heal, then that is really, really fucking useful. Druids are amazing for this, like Boomkins, and Ellie Shamans aren't too bad.
Now we're going to cover the changes phase by phase, and we're going to start off with the night phase. Now the boss still has nightmares, which are the circle things on the floor, and if you stand in them you're retarded. He still has a shadow breath on the tanks, so you've got to make sure you face the boss away from the group, and also you keep switching between your tanks. There's still the sunbeam, of course, and when you go in it you drop your dread shadows, which is still in the fight, and of course everything hurts a lot more because, well, it's heroic and that's what it does.
However, the one additional change in this phase is the Dark of Night. Now, these are ads that spawn usually around the outsides of the room. However, they can spawn in very awkward places. We'll talk about that in a moment. And if these ads reach the sunbeam, which is all they'll do, they'll just start walking over towards the sunbeam. The sunbeam will explode, despawn, and do damage to anyone who's nearby it. Realistically, none of the ads should reach it. That's your goal, to kill these ads. They don't have a lot of health. You can use things such as knockbacks on them, and you can also use things like stuns, which is really, really useful. So you want to kill these ads before they reach the beam. However, you can get RNG'd, and the beam will spawn on top of ads that are already up. And there's not really too much you can do about this. The best way to counter this is just by killing the ads as quick as you possibly can. But ultimately, if that does happen, you'd have to stack up an AoE heal, or you'll probably wipe. If that does happen, Dread Shadows will probably stack up to at least 20 on every single person, which means it hurts a lot, which means a lot of fucking healing. And essentially that's this phase. Make sure you stand in the sunbeam, and yeah, don't let the ads reach it. Around the 70% energy mark, you'll get a new beam that spawns. This beam, you don't really need to kill the ads, because you're about to go into the day phase anyway, which means no more dread shadows. So you can just ignore these ads and just nuke the boss instead. However, when the ads do reach the sunbeam, make sure you're not stood inside it. And as soon as the day phase starts, any ads that are up will despawn.
Talking about the day phase, not much has changed really at all. You still got the 3 different types of ads. You've got the unstable Shah, which are the ones that spawn around the outside of the room and move towards the boss. You really want to slow these as much as you possibly can, as well as interrupt as much as you can. However, when you do interrupt them, well, it stops them from damaging themselves, because every time they do a spell cast, it does do 10% of their health. So you want to kind of try and balance that between them dying quickly and, of course, damage on the raid and, of course, the boss. Now, of course, you've got the Embodied Terror, which is the big fuck-off ad, and when you kill it, you get all the little fright spawning. It's practically the same deal. It has a shit ton of health, and you've got to sort out when you really want to kill it, because you really need to kill this before a sun breath each time, because those ads, if they don't get hit by that sunbeam, because they have so much more health, the sun breath doesn't actually one-hit them. So really, what you want to do is when they do get breath, they get taken down to about 30% health. You keep nuking them, and then just like apply AoE silences like the solar beam, or AoE stuns supplied from warlocks or whatever, anything you can, because of course they're fearing everyone. However, there is one major change, which is called the Light of Day.
So this is the new thing in the phase, and obviously in the phase your healers will get a buff from the breath, which they should be using to heal up the boss. But there's also something that spawns called Light of Day, and this is like a glowy, like sunbeamy clickable object, and when you click on it you'll gain 1500% extra healing for 6 seconds. So it's like the breath but stronger. The actual buff, the actual amount of healing you get, decreases over the effect. So if you have a really big heal and you click on it, you want to use your really big heal first before using anything else. I don't know why you wouldn't anyway, but that's something you should keep in mind. Also, on top of this, it will give you mana back over the duration that it has, increasing the amount of mana you get as the buff continues. You'll get more and more after the 6 seconds.
So basically, you have shit healing. You have really good healing at the beginning, and then it gets worse and worse, and you get really shit mana at the beginning, and then it gets better and better. So that's how the buff works.
Now, every time this spawns, you want the person with the strongest single target heals to take it, or anyone who has their cooldowns up. On the majority of the first ones we have our Boomkin take it, because he'll have Heart of the Wild up, and when he pops that, he does incredible healing. It's pretty insane. You can do the same with Shamans. They can pop a healing tide totem, which is kind of helpful. Really, you just want your boomkins to take it, and people like paladins or druids, perhaps like resto druids. But essentially, it doesn't matter who takes it, as long as when they do take it, they actually make use out of it and heal the fucking boss.
Now, one thing to note is that this new Light of Day buff and the breath do not stack, so you don't want to be taking them at the same time, because of course you want to get as much as you can out of the sun breath, but as well as much as you can out of the Light of Day, so make sure that you do take them at different times. The rate of which they spawn is kind of a bit off every time, but you normally get about 2 before the first breath and then 3 in between each of the other breaths coming up, so you do use them quite frequently, so you will be rotating your healers around them quite a lot. Now, because your healers are going to have a really high buff on them quite a lot of the time, this just means that you really need to deal with those fright spawns, because if you have any fears going off and the healers just clicked on the fucking the Light of Day, and then that healing buff is basically wasted. So it is really, really important that you deal with those fright spawns properly.
And the ads in this phase do have an incredible amount of health compared to normal modes, so to keep DPS up on top of them is kind of touch and go. Really, you want your second tank to almost deal with one shot all on his own. That's what we did, at least. But yeah, that's the phase pretty much. You just rinse and repeat until the boss becomes active. And then the transition of going into the night phase, you'll only ever have this once. If you have it twice, if you do this transition twice, then the boss is literally about to enrage. He'll enrage any second. So, but on this transition, it can get very, very messy, because you have the fright spawns up. They'll just be breathed on those, so they'll be fairly low. You'll still have the unstable shards, which are then moving towards the boss. The sunbeam will spawn about 3 seconds later, and then you'll start getting the dark of nights as well, which means you need to clear up as quick as possible. You want to prioritize the fright spawns, and really you want to try and get the unstable shards down, but only do that providing all the dark of night ads are in a safe position and they're not near the beam. If they are near the beam, then you need to kill them first, or stun them, or knock them away, or whatever you can. You might actually even need to kite the boss at this point, just so the unstable shards do not go anywhere near him, because even though it is the night phase, he will still heal for a shit ton if they actually reach him. So that's what you should plan on doing.
So as long as you can perfect the night phase and the day phase, and of course the transition between them, and you do have enough healing and you do have enough DPS, then it really shouldn't be too much of an issue. The fight hasn't changed too much, it's just become a little bit tougher really, but you have got these nice new tools, especially in the day phase, to kind of deal with them, so that's quite nice. Overall, a quite good boss.
Yeah, it's a decent boss.
So thank you guys for watching. If this guide did help you out, and please do give us a thumbs up, it helps us out significantly, and make sure to comment, rate and subscribe.
And if you'd like to see more 10-man heroic guides by FatBoss, please do click up on the annotations you see on your screen now. Thanks for watching.
Thank you all.